Alrighty, guys, good evening. Let me know in chat if you can hear me okay, and we'll go ahead and get started with our briefing this evening. Welcome into the chat, guys. I'm Ryan. This is Indiana Weather Online as well as Indiana Storm Chasing Network. We are live on both accounts, YouTube and Facebook. This is going to be our first briefing of the severe weather threat on Friday evening into Saturday. We have potentially 2, maybe 3 rounds of storms incoming here. So we're going to go ahead and roll into this briefing here, talking about the overall risk and then breaking it down into hazards, timing, locations, etc. So starting with our SPC risk here. The SPC are the official people who issue the outlooks for severe weather. They're based out of Oklahoma. So we have a level 2 risk here, anywhere from Vincennes over toward Indianapolis, toward Muncie, back up into the very far northwest corner of Ohio, all the way up into Michigan, as far west as Illinois, parts of Iowa, back down through Missouri, over toward Texas. It's a very large risk area tomorrow. Further south here, level 1 risk in dark green, that's called a marginal risk. And then the light green area out here is just general thunderstorms that should not be severe. In terms of our hazards, our severe hazards here, number 1 risk tomorrow evening, Friday evening into Saturday morning, is going to be damaging winds. On your map here, we have a probability-based map. The yellow is a 15 to 29% probability of seeing a damaging wind gust within a 25-mile radius of any location. So if you live in Lafayette, you have a 15 to 29% chance of seeing a damaging wind gust within a 25-mile radius of you. Anywhere in the yellow, that is your probability. Lower probability there in the reddish brown color, that's a 5 to 14%. So still a risk, but just a little bit lower in terms of the overall probability. Then again, extends up to Michigan, back through Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, back all the way down through Texas. The second risk tomorrow, for pretty much the exact same area and the exact same percentages, is hail. Large hail above a quarter size in diameter. This is going to be, again, same areas there, same probabilities, pretty much from Vincennes to Indianapolis up through Muncie, all the way up toward that Defiance, Ohio area, into Michigan, back down through Texas. Number 3 and final is your tornadic risk. So in green here, it is a 2 to 4% chance of seeing a tornado anywhere in that green shaded area. Now, if you live in the white area, the white is nothing. There is no probability issued from the SPC. All right, so putting it all together here, it's an all hazards threat if you live north of Vincennes, north of Indy, and north of Muncie. All hazards, wind, hail, tornadoes in that order as well. Wind primary, hail secondary, tornadoes as a third threat. Let's go ahead and talk about what to expect in terms of our timing. If you guys got questions, feel free to drop those in chat now. Once I'm done going over the models here, I'll go ahead and look to chat. If you guys got questions, I'll go ahead and answer some of those. But looking at the future forecast here off of the short-term models, let's go ahead and run this through. This is current here on Thursday. Back this up 1 run to the 18Z. There we go. Perfect. We're going to run through some showers tonight. Not going to be a huge deal. We're not expecting anything strong or severe tonight. But don't be shocked if you have some raindrops fall on your head if you're out for a walk. Moving into the evening time frame, into the overnight tonight, into Friday morning, we're going to have numerous thunderstorms to our north across Wisconsin, parts of Illinois, parts of Michigan. But notice we're still dry here in Indiana. As we get toward that morning time frame, we may have a stray shower or storm right around that Michigan border area. So Gary, South Bend, Elkhart, over toward Angola. You may have a stray shower or storm by the time about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning rolls around. But other than that, we're not really looking at too much of anything to be concerned about in terms of our storm potential. We go into the afternoon hours. We're going to be clear all afternoon. I'm going to repeat that. We're going to be clear all afternoon, pretty much dry, 80s and windy with abundant sunshine, maybe some cloud cover working in toward the evening hours. It's going to be a nice day outside tomorrow, so go out and enjoy it. But as we move toward the evening time frame, we're having a lot of moist air build up from the Gulf. It's going to build in unstable atmosphere. And then as that happens, storms begin to fire up along a cold front to our west across Illinois. So here's 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. We have storms ongoing across Michigan, across Illinois. But notice how we're still pretty much dry here, if any strong storms in Indiana. Now, as we move into the late evening hours here, I'm going to pause right here and say our storm threat tomorrow is going to likely be after sunset, after 9 o'clock, perhaps even after midnight. The reason for that is because there is a strong cap in place on the atmosphere, and that cap is basically a warm layer of air above our heads that storms try to form. The updraft hits that warm layer and it stops the updraft. So that is going to prevent any storms from firing until that cap is either broken or weakened enough for storms to break through that cap. All right, that is the major factor and the major limiting factor for tomorrow. If that cap holds strong, we may not see storms until 2 or 3 in the morning. If that cap can break early, we could see storms right around that 8 to 10 o'clock time frame, but likely going to be after sunset as the atmosphere cools off. That cap will weaken and we have a better chance of getting storms to develop. So jumping back into the model here, this is 9 p.m. Eastern time. Let's go to 10 p.m. 11 p.m. Notice how these storms that did fire up across Illinois, they look pretty strong, they start to weaken. And that's because I believe they're struggling with that capping inversion that's going to put a lid on the atmosphere. They could be struggling to get developed and formed. All right, so if that happens, we may not have much of a risk at all. Now, this is at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, Friday, tomorrow evening. Here's midnight. Here's 1 a.m. Here's 2 a.m. Notice we have pretty much no risk here on this model for anything severe. Just some general pop-up showers, maybe rumble of thunder here across maybe Seymour, back down through Bloomington. It's not looking overly concerning on this model, all right? As we move toward the sunrise Saturday time frame, we're going to start to notice a trend here. We have additional showers and storms developing across parts of southwest Indiana back through Illinois toward that sunrise time frame. Now, we go into that sunrise time frame and we have a nice looking bow echo of storms here pushing across Vincennes, Terre Haute area, back down perhaps towards Evansville. That could be one to watch there towards sunrise on Saturday. But before that even happens, we're pretty much free and clear according to this model. But this isn't the only model we use. We also use other models. For example, we use the FV3 model, another short-term model. We're going to run this through. We're going to have some scattered rain showers there across northern half of the state. We go into the evening hours here, 11 p.m., midnight. Here's 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Then this one actually has storms across that northern half of the state at 3 in the morning, for example. So uncertainty with overall evolution. We could have storms, yes, but really dependent on how that cap is going to play out. So overall, we're going to start advertising, going back to the risk area here, a potential round 1, pretty much north of Terre Haute, north of Indianapolis. If you live north of this line here, perhaps round 1 between 10 p.m. at the earliest and as late as 3 or 4 in the morning, you could have storms developing there north of Indy. All right. Now, if you live south of Indy, the story is a little bit different there. We don't really see too much in the way developing overnight, maybe a storm or two. But the biggest threat becomes towards sunrise as that line that forms over here pushes your way. So we'll have to watch that carefully. So potential round 1 up here, round 2 down here, different time frames for each. Overall uncertainty exists. So we're going to go conservative with our forecast here. And we're going to say there's a potential for severe, but it's conditional on how this evolves and how that cap plays out. So overall, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to break it down a little bit better tomorrow as new data is put in the models. So if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in chat here. I'll go over our scenario here. I have a wind and rain map here. So scenarios, I just explained this to you guys. Possibility 1, possibility 2. Possibility 1, strong cap in place. That'll minimize severe risk, but still early AM storms on Saturday are a possibility. Or the second of possibilities there, the cap breaks. We have a risk developing in northern Indiana. Primary risk would be damaging winds followed by large hail, and a brief tornado cannot be ruled out but is unlikely given a lot of limiting factors. With this, though, regardless of any potential severe, it's going to be windy tomorrow. So we actually have a wind gust map made here, pretty much 30 to 40, maybe 45 across the northern half of the state there in terms of wind gusts throughout the day on Friday into the early part of Saturday. So if you have loose objects in your yard, feel free to go ahead and secure those. We could have some gusty winds. As always, it's been a very gusty, very windy spring here in Indiana, but we could have that continuing into that Friday time frame, especially into the afternoon and evening. into Saturday morning there. So keep that in mind. And then last thing I'll touch on here is the rain between tomorrow evening and also Sunday morning. So about two days or so of rainfall. We could have over an inch or two, perhaps 3 inches in spots of rain falling across north central Indiana there. The entire state into about a half inch or so of rain. That will continue into early next week as well. So we could have multiple rounds of rain. This is just through Sunday. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. Flooding could be a concern, especially across central and south Indiana, where we've already had rivers rising and flooding already ongoing that's starting to recede. We also could have renewed chances of that through Sunday, especially into the early next week as rivers do rise on a delay. All right. That is the overall evolution and forecast. Feel free to pop in chat any questions. I'll stay live here and answer you guys' questions if you have any. But if not, I'm going to pop out. And we'll be live more than likely tomorrow afternoon or evening for another briefing just like this with updated data and, if need be, an updated forecast for you guys. Who we got in chat here? We got Rachel, Julie, Mike, Jean, Joyce, Dee Dee, and Amy. Rachel says, hello from Muncie. Good evening, Rachel. Thanks for tuning in. We got Mike from Newcastle. Thanks for tuning in, Mike. Glad to see you guys in here. Rachel asking if Easter is going to be a washout. Good question there. I'll go ahead and flip over here to the GFS model, running you guys through the overall composite reflectivity. That's your future radar. Here's Saturday, and then here's Sunday here. So GFS model says we're going to start Sunday dry, but as we move in toward that Sunday night, Monday time frame, here comes another round of rain, perhaps even some stronger storms on Sunday. We'll have to watch that carefully. I have not touched on it, but there is a risk on Sunday to our south and to our west, but that may be extended up further north. But also on top of Sunday, go back a day to Saturday, we also have a severe risk here in place for portions of central and southern Indiana again. So perhaps 1 to 2, 3 days worth of severe weather here for the state. So multiple rounds potentially, and that also aids to the flooding risk and to storm risks as well. But overall, Easter will not be a washout, but we could have a chance for afternoon and evening, especially evening storms across the state. So keep that in mind. Hello from the fort. Good evening, Gene. It is lightly raining in Gary, no thunder or lightning. And yeah, that was expected today. There could be a pop-up shower out there, a passing shower. It's not going to be a huge deal, a huge concern. I think there actually is a risk for a rumble of thunder across the north half of the state tonight. But overall, no severe weather is expected out of this tonight. This is for Friday night, especially into Saturday morning. Hello from Muncie, says Dee Dee. Hello from Elwood, Amy. Good to see you guys in here. How bad will Saturday be? Daniel, great question. So going back to the outlook here, for Saturday, we have a low risk, level 1 out of 5 there in dark green. So that's anywhere south of Lafayette, south of Fort Wayne, all the way down to Kentucky. The big question I have with Saturday is there going to be a second round? If we go back to that model here and kind of walk you through it really quickly, we're going to look at that first round here, pushing right about here. Here's Saturday morning. Okay, so we have that risk in place, kind of flip-flopping between the two risks. It's well placed here as the storms push across the state early morning on Saturday. This is at 6 o'clock in the morning Saturday. Let's go to 10, right about here. So notice a couple things here. We also have a pretty potent line, looks like, moving through there across the state here early in the morning, but also notice that it looks like there's an outflow boundary this storm puts out. What that is essentially, I would assume, would push any severe risk south of the state, because that will stall any advancing warm, unstable air up into the state. So my personal thinking is Saturday morning could get bad, especially if this particular storm here does push across the state. Again, this is at 8 to 11 o'clock in the morning here across south central Indiana. But after that, I would be leaning more toward a pretty quiet day in terms of severe weather threat. But we could still have rain, yes, but severe weather, I don't see that happening into that afternoon period just yet. It could happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, but what I'm seeing right here, I would suggest probably not. I think that marginal risk they put in place there is covering the morning round of storms, because this outlook here ends at 8 o'clock Eastern time Saturday morning. So even if storms go past that, we could still have some severe storms past the 8 o'clock time frame, which is where this forecast is valid for. So I would say Morning, yes, could get pretty bad there, but afternoon and evening, just some rain. I wouldn't expect there to be severe weather at this time. How warm are we going to get? Julie asks. I'm assuming you mean for tomorrow and Saturday. So temperatures tomorrow, again, it's going to be a dry afternoon and evening tomorrow. The risk for severe weather happens overnight. But looking at the temperatures, you guys across much of the state, if not all of the state, likely going to be at or around 80. Here are your temperatures here, 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday afternoon. We're having widespread 80s across north half of Indiana. And then down here further south, we're upper 70s. It's going to be a very pleasant day out there. Would not be shocked. We have numerous 80, 81, 82 degree reports across the state tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be breezy. It's going to be windy. It's going to be moist. It's going to feel humid. It's going to feel like a early summer day. Going back here to that model time frame, I'm going to pause it right there. Daniel says it kind of looks like there will be a second round, but I noticed that nighttime storms seem to be worse than daytime storms. It all depends on the setup, Daniel. It really does. There's a lot of factors that go into nighttime threats. One of the reasons that storms at night can intensify is something called a low-level jet, which I'm not sure you're familiar with that term. Basically, the wind shear above our heads increases, which can also help sustain severe storms overnight. That's one reason you may have a history of storms becoming severe overnight versus the daytime. But also at night, the lid on the atmosphere breaks, and that also allows for more storms to develop sometimes. So that's also a reason why storms can happen after dark. But there are plenty of days in Indiana we've had daytime severe and no nighttime severe as well. So it kind of evens all out. Kayleen, this is going to be tomorrow evening, late, especially after that 10 p.m. time frame, overnight into Saturday morning. I would highly suggest going back and watching the first about 7 or 8 minutes of this video. There's still some uncertainty going on with the overall evolution of storms, but there is a threat for severe weather tomorrow evening, especially overnight period into that early Saturday morning period. It is going to be a beach day for Indiana. Yeah, Julie, it is. It is. Of course, I can't say that it's going to feel like one, but the waters, if you're heading up to the beach in Lake Michigan or any of the lakes around the state, you're still going to be really cold. They're not even close to being swimming temperatures just yet. So, will Saturday afternoon be good? Kaylee, that is a good question. In terms of severe weather, I'm going to say yes, but it will likely be raining across probably the central and northern half of the state into that time frame. So here's, for example, 2 p.m. on Saturday. We're seeing a band of rain here across that north central part of the state, which is also why we put that flooding risk out for that general area, because that's the area of most impactful in terms of rain. But if you live south of Indianapolis, after the morning, about noon or so, you should be drying out for your Saturday. Tornado risk for tomorrow, Riley, great question. That is going to be a low-end risk. Get this off your screen. Give me a second. There we go. The risk for tornadoes tomorrow is quite low. So the SPC here, the green shaded area is your only risk. It's the lowest risk they issue. It's called a 2 to 4%. North of Vincennes, Indianapolis, and north of Muncie, that is where that risk is in place for. But again, highly dependent on if storms can develop later in the evening tomorrow. If they don't, which is a good possibility they don't, we are looking at more of a damaging wind and hail threat overnight. So don't rule it out, but it's not a huge concern to be like, hey, we got to, have the basement ready. We got to get our shoes on. You should be ready, yes, but it's not one of the days I'd say be on high alert for tornadoes. What about Easter? So in terms of severe weather, the risk for severe is off to our south and west. I would not be shocked if that gets pulled north here based on latest model guidance. And that is only because, going back here to the model, we have a depiction here on the GFS model. We could have some storms here moving in later in the evening for western Indiana here. This is at 8 p.m. Sunday evening. So it's going to be dry to start. It should be dry start your Easter. But as we move toward that evening time frame, I would suggest we could have a thunderstorm threat, possibly strong or severe for the western half of the state at least for that Sunday time period. So don't let your guard down, but it should be a drier afternoon across the state until we get to that evening time frame. Is this a moderate risk system for straight line winds? Chris asks. So the answer to that is no. This is a 2 steps below. Get this back up. Yeah, 2 steps below that risk level. So it goes 1 in dark green. That's your marginal risk. No, level 2 is what we have here in yellow. Orange is enhanced risk, level 3, then the moderate is level 4. This is nowhere near a moderate risk, and it will not be a moderate risk. So this is not a very high-end threat. It is conditional on if that cap can break, which allows storms to develop. If that cap doesn't break, we may be going all night without a severe storm. That's best case scenario, and it's a possible scenario as well. So that's the best case solution, but it's nowhere near moderate risk for winds. Any other questions, guys? Been live here for about 25 minutes. It's Q&A time, so if you got questions, feel free to drop them in chat. I will do my best to answer. No problem, Kathy. If you guys are heading out, thanks for tuning in. We'll be doing a lot more of these briefings consistently in the future, so feel free to follow along. Whether you're following on IWO or ISCN, we are having you guys covered for any and all severe weather. Rachel says, Ryan, just wanted to say you're doing an awesome job taking over for Brandon. I appreciate that, Rachel. I really do. Brandon built a awesome page here. And I definitely, I actually followed it when I was working in Indiana 5 or 6 years ago. So I used to follow it avidly and then realized it had gone inactive and didn't want to see that. So with the knowledge that our team has and the ability, it made sense for us to take it over. But I'm also I'm glad you like it, because I know a lot of people are kind of shy to the fact that I'm taking over, or we're taking over. I say myself, but there's also a team behind me. There's Caleb, there's Chandler, Joel, Nick, Alex. We have a group of partners who chase for us. Like, we have a great team here. So we're just getting started here. You guys haven't met them. You will meet them eventually. But I appreciate that, Rachel. I really do. Happy Good Friday for everyone tomorrow. Thank you, Daniel. Right back at you. Yeah, a lot of I'm not going to say this is a big concern, but I know a lot of people are traveling for Easter weekend here. There's Good Friday, there's Easter, there's a lot of people out and about going to church on Sunday morning, people visiting. So it's important to be weather aware and make sure you have those ways to receive warnings in the event that one is issued for your location. Obviously, this is not going to be, like I said before, not going to be a high-end threat. It's a conditional risk, but still, no matter what level of risk it is, it's always good to have a plan in place and make sure you're prepared in the event of severe weather. So I don't see any other questions popping in chat here, so I am going to pop out. So I will catch you guys tomorrow afternoon, more than likely. I know Caleb will be on here doing a briefing sometime. I'm not sure if I will be or not. But if not, you're going to have Caleb either way. And then if anything severe does occur tomorrow evening into Saturday morning, we'll be live. Caleb will have you covered here. I'll probably pop on with him occasionally. But we got you guys covered here. So with that being said, I am going to... one more question here from Mindy I noticed here in chat. Is there a chance the levels could go up, or are they staying where they are? Mindy, great question. And the answer comes from a personal standpoint. I don't have any knowledge of what they want to do. But based on my weather knowledge, I'm going to say it's going to stay the same. I don't see confidence enough to increase this risk to an enhanced level 3. If we had more confidence that there are going to be storms that are widespread, maybe, but we don't have that at all. We actually have concerns that storms may not fire at all. So it kind of goes the other way of what you're asking there. I don't see Indiana being upgraded to an enhanced risk. So with that being said, that is the final question that I see. I'm going to pop out of here. And like I said before, we'll hop back on tomorrow in the event of anything severe, and also for that briefing, probably sometime mid-afternoon for an update on the forecast, how it's looking, and other Q&A session as well. So with that being said, you guys enjoy your evening. I'm going to pop out. All right, stay safe. I'll catch you tomorrow.